Have you ever wondered, after turning 60, does love, intimacy, and the feeling of being desired still matter? On Health Advice for You, we're revealing a truth rarely spoken, that sex, closeness, and emotional connection aren't just pleasures of youth, but a vital source of energy that can help you live longer, feel stronger, and be truly happy. If you've ever felt alone, or thought your days of love were over, this video is for you. Because with just one small gesture, you can open a whole new chapter, one filled with warmth, hope, and vitality. Let us show you how to reconnect with yourself, and with the one you love, even if you're in your 70s, 80s, or beyond. 1. Sex, not just pleasure, but a vital need for health and longevity. When entering your 60s, 70s, or even 80s, many people tend to assume that their sex life has come to an end. Some consider it natural, while others quietly accept it due to age, health, or personal circumstances. But what few people realize, and what is rarely spoken about, is that sex, physical intimacy, and emotional connection are not just fleeting pleasures. They are essential components of physical health, mental clarity, and longevity. Indeed, sex is not only about pleasure, it is a flame that helps keep our inner vitality alive. When there is physical closeness, a hug, a loving gaze, or a gentle night of affection, our body responds by releasing hormones such as oxytocin, the bonding hormone, dopamine, the happiness hormone, and endorphins, natural pain relievers. These not only help us feel good, but also regulate blood pressure, boost the immune system, lift our mood, and sharpen memory. In contrast, when intimacy disappears from our lives, whether due to loss, illness, or an invisible distance between two people, the impact goes far beyond emotional emptiness. Over time, the lack of connection can cause both body and mind to gradually wither. The brain loses healthy stimulation, leading to memory lapses, sluggish thinking, and increased vulnerability to stress or depression. In fact, many studies have shown that prolonged loneliness and lack of intimate connection can increase the risk of chronic illness and shorten life expectancy. Neurologists have likened physical intimacy to a natural supplement for the brain, especially in older adults. Sex can function like therapy, keeping active the regions of the brain responsible for memory, emotion, and creativity. It doesn't have to be passionate or youthful, it simply has to be heartfelt, affirming that you are still seen, still wanted, and still deeply connected. It's also important to emphasize that intimacy doesn't only mean intercourse. It can be a tender handhold, a sincere conversation, a caring gesture, or a quiet morning sharing tea and leaning on each other in peace. These seemingly small acts have profound impacts on health and emotional well-being, like underground springs nourishing the deep roots of life. Sadly, many older adults, especially those who have lost a spouse or live in emotionally distant relationships, begin to feel that they are no longer worthy of love or closeness. They withdraw, hide their longing to be touched, and suppress their desire to be loved as a whole human being. But that belief is untrue. It is never too late to begin again. Whether you are in your 60s, 70s, or beyond, you still have the full right to feel alive, connected, and loved, not just as a patient or an elderly person, but as a human being with deep emotions and desire. Sex and intimacy are languages of life. As long as you can still feel them, you are not merely existing, you are truly living. So instead of thinking of old age as the time to let go, think of it as the time to revive, to look again, to reach again, and to reconnect. Wherever you are on your life journey, there is always a door through which you can return, to yourself, to your partner, or to the feelings that once quietly slept within you. Remember, you are never too old to feel love. You are never too late to live fully. And you deserve to spend your later years not just in length, but in richness, with a warm heart, a healthy body, and a soul that knows it is still loved. 2. When intimacy disappears, the body quietly begins to decline, how hormones and circulation are affected when sex fades. As we grow older, we often pay attention to blood pressure, heart health, joints, or sleep. But there's one quiet shift that very few people notice. The fading of sexual and intimate connection often marks the beginning of a subtle but real physical decline, not dramatic, not sudden, but deeply true. Sex is not merely a biological act. It's part of the body's intricate operating system, like background music that, when missing, leaves everything feeling silent and unbalanced. When intimacy disappears from life, especially after age 60, the body begins to respond, and that response is far from minor. Hormonal imbalance begins. Sex, affection, and physical touch stimulate the release of many beneficial hormones. In men, sexual activity helps maintain stable testosterone levels, a hormone essential for muscle strength, mood stability, and mental clarity. When sex life slows down, testosterone can drop rapidly, leading to fatigue, lack of motivation, weight gain, muscle loss, reduced libido, and even mild depression. Women are equally affected. Without physical affection and stimulation, oxytocin and estrogen levels decline, causing dry skin, joint pain, mood swings, sleep disturbances, and increased risk of osteoporosis. Many women don't realize that these uncomfortable changes aren't just about aging, but also about the absence of emotional and physical connection with their partner. Weakened circulation and overall health decline. One rarely mentioned truth: sex is a form of beneficial physical exercise. During intimacy, heart rate increases, lungs expand, and blood flows more efficiently throughout the body, from the heart to the brain, from the lungs to the limbs. Sex dilates blood vessels, improves organ function, and boosts oxygen delivery to tissues. It also helps regulate blood pressure and strengthens the cardiovascular system. In contrast, when the body misses out on those waves of circulation brought on by intimacy, blood vessels become less elastic. Blood flow slows down, leaving hands and feet cold, the heart more fatigued, the skin dull, hair thinning, and the body's ability to heal or regenerate greatly diminished. Stopping sexual activity entirely after age 60 is like stopping an important exercise routine, without replacing it with an equivalent. Decline comes slowly, so it's often overlooked. What's most concerning is that these changes don't happen suddenly. You won't wake up one morning and feel old. It happens slowly, almost imperceptibly, a bit of fatigue getting out of bed, some unexplained aches, another night of restless sleep, or a distant look from your partner that no one questions anymore. Day after day, month after month, health quietly fades, but few ever suspect that the root of it might be the disappearance of intimacy and touch. No more holding each other. No more feeling desired. The body responds in silence by withdrawing its energy, as if it's whispering, there's nothing left to wait for. You don't need intercourse to restore everything. Here's the good news. The benefits of hormones and circulation don't rely solely on traditional intercourse. Just intimacy, a long hug, a tender caress, or a warm, loving gaze, is enough to activate the parasympathetic nervous system, which helps the body relax and restore. These simple acts trigger positive hormonal responses, improve sleep, lift mood, and reignite your will to live. It's not about performance or ability, it's about presence. About having someone beside you, someone willing to reach out, to look at you and remind you that you are alive, attractive, and still deeply lovable. Conclusion. Life doesn't disappear, it just waits to be awakened. You don't have to be young to have a vibrant body. You simply need to give your body a reason to awaken again, a sense of connection that makes your heart beat a little faster, your blood flow a little stronger, and your eyes sparkle with renewed emotion. Intimacy doesn't have to be complicated. Sometimes, the right touch at the right time is enough to restart a whole biological system that's been quietly asleep. You deserve that. Not because you need to be young again, but because you are still living, and there is still so much life inside you waiting to be stirred. 3. When intimacy fades. Self-worth and relationships begin to quietly fracture. There is a kind of distance in marriage that can't be measured in meters or months. It's the space between two people who once loved each other deeply. Still living under the same roof, but no longer touching, no longer saying, "I love you," no longer sharing loving glances. What's left is a long, silent stillness, quiet, yet cold. The danger is that this distance makes no noise, but it can silently break an entire life apart. Aging doesn't always arrive in wrinkles. Sometimes it arrives in the prolonged silence between two people who used to be everything to each other. Losing sexual connection, losing the feeling of being loved. Intimacy is a kind of unspoken language. When we are still touched, hugged, or gently caressed, we feel alive, wanted, and meaningful in someone's life. But when those gestures disappear, we begin to wonder, am I still attractive? Am I still a partner, or have I become a caregiver, a roommate, or worse, someone unnecessary? Many older couples have stopped being intimate for years without ever talking about it. No one asks. No one admits. They live in what appears to be a peaceful marriage, but inside is parallel loneliness. One feels inadequate, the other feels forgotten. No one is to blame, but both are hurting. A woman needs more than care, she needs to be desired. A 74-year-old woman once told a doctor in the original video, "I don't want him to feel pressured. But I miss being touched. I miss feeling like a woman, not just someone who takes care of him." Her words were soft, but they struck deep. They revealed a truth rarely spoken, that even in old age, women still long to be loved and desired, physically and emotionally. When sex disappears from a woman's life, she doesn't just lose a physical part of herself. She loses the feeling of being seen. The adoring gaze from years ago fades. Though she may not say it, deep down she longs to be touched, to be held, to be called by affectionate names from the past. Men are no different, they long to be valued and loved again. Older men also gradually fall into a quiet sense of losing themselves when intimacy fades. They may not voice it, but they silently feel less confident, less strong, no longer the protector, or even no longer truly a man. They wrap that emptiness in silence, in offhand jokes, in the way they turn away in bed. And over time, that silence becomes a wall. If unhealed, that distance can become lifelong wounds. When no one speaks up, no one takes the first step, both people begin to adapt to the gap. They stop expecting. Stop initiating. But deep inside, the sadness lingers. It makes them distant, irritable, or quietly withdrawn, unsure why they feel so empty. There are couples who sleep side by side for decades yet feel more like strangers than people who once fell in love. And this truth also applies to those who are single, widowed, or living alone. When you stop believing that you deserve connection, whether emotional or physical, your self-worth begins to erode. You no longer see yourself as attractive. No longer feel inspired to care for yourself. You think, that part of life is no longer for me. But that belief is a painful mistake. The good news: you can begin again, with just a small gesture. Distance may be created in silence, but it can also be softened with tenderness. A surprise hand-hold. A whisper, "I miss the way we used to be." A gentle hug from behind. You may be surprised to find your partner smiling shyly, wanting to open up, having longed for this moment as much as you. Love doesn't die, it simply falls asleep when both people grow too tired to reach for it again. But if just one of you dares to break the silence, the flame can reignite, even at age 60, 70, or 90. Conclusion: you are not just a partner, you are still a lover, a human being worth loving. Ask yourself, when was the last time you felt truly touched, not for help, but out of affection. If it's been too long, maybe it's time to reconnect with yourself first, your self-respect, your tenderness. Your belief that you are still worthy of love and admiration, no matter how many years have passed. Whether you are in a long-term marriage or living on your own. Whether your relationship has gone cold or is struggling in silence, there is always a doorway into a new chapter. Start with a conversation, a kind gesture, and remind yourself, you are not alone. You are not past your time, and you are still deeply attractive, not because of appearance, but because of the warmth and honesty you carry within. For, intimacy can extend your lifespan, and make life truly worth living. Have you ever wondered, why is it that some people in their 80s still walk every day, smile brightly, and live joyfully like they're in their 50s? While others, barely past 60, seem tired, sluggish, and live as if they're just waiting for time to pass? The answer isn't always found in supplements, nutrition, or genetics. Sometimes, it lies in something deeply human and profoundly simple, intimate connection. Not everyone realizes this. But regular sex and intimacy can directly increase life expectancy and enhance the quality of life. Many think sex is only for the young, or that it becomes irrelevant with age. But science says otherwise. Physical closeness, even something as simple as a hug, a handhold, or a loving look, can help you live longer, stay healthier, and feel more fulfilled. A loved heart is a healthier heart. Intimacy boosts levels of oxytocin, often called the love hormone. Oxytocin not only deepens emotional bonding, but also lowers blood pressure, stabilizes heart rhythm, reduces anxiety, and lowers the risk of heart disease, which is the leading cause of death among older adults. Sex and affectionate touch also reduce cortisol, the stress hormone responsible for inflammation, tension, and aging. When someone touches you lovingly, your nervous system shifts from fight or flight to rest and restore. That's why people with fulfilling intimate lives tend to sleep better, have stronger immune systems, and get sick less often. It's not about intensity, it's about consistency and authenticity. Don't think these benefits only come from passionate sex like in your 20s. In reality, small actions, a goodnight kiss, a hug from behind, or even the feeling of being cherished in someone's eyes, can trigger powerful biological reactions throughout your body. One study published in the British Medical Journal found that older adults with regular sexual intimacy, even just once every few weeks, had significantly lower mortality rates than those with no intimacy. These individuals also tended to be happier, more energetic, and felt their lives were more meaningful, not because of their physical condition, but because they felt connected, seen, and valued every day. Loneliness is a silent killer. We often focus on diabetes, high blood pressure, or cancer, but rarely do we talk about loneliness as a serious, chronic illness. People who lack connection, even if they live with family, often experience weakened immune systems, poor sleep, increased anxiety or depression, and a loss of will to live. Ironically, many of them are not alone. They live with spouses or children, but feel invisible. Why? Because no one has touched them with love in a long time. Because they haven't been seen as a man or a woman, only as an elder, someone to be taken care of. And when you stop feeling worthy of love, the body starts to shut down. It withdraws. It gives up. Robert's story, and the secret to feeling 81 years young. In the original video, the doctor shares a story about Robert, 81 years old, healthy, sharp, and full of energy. When asked for his secret, he didn't mention vitamins or exercise. He smiled and said, "Every morning I still tease my wife, every night we still hold each other. And sometimes, there's still a little spark." No one expects Robert to be as vigorous as he was at 40, but what kept him vibrant, kept him feeling human, was the ongoing presence of intimacy and affection. That's why he wasn't just living long, he was living well. As you age, you don't need less intimacy, you just need it differently. Intimacy in older age doesn't have to mean passionate sex like in youth. It could be a quiet evening lying beside one another watching TV, a morning walk while holding hands, or a moment when you look into your partner's eyes and say, "You're still beautiful to me." That kind of closeness makes you feel truly alive. It gives you the motivation to get out of bed, go for a walk, eat healthy, and take care of yourself, not for health's sake, but for love's. Because when you have someone to love, or even just the hope of loving yourself again, you'll always have a reason to live another full day. Conclusion. Lifespan isn't measured only in years, but in inner vitality. Living long without connection is merely existing. But living with a warm heart, a body touched by affection, that is truly living. You don't need a perfect relationship. You don't need to reclaim your youth. You simply need a heart that still feels, eyes that still seek connection. And with that, you still have the power to extend your life, revive your energy, and live a meaningful, beautiful chapter, starting right now. 5. It's never too late. How to reignite intimacy, even after a long time apart. Maybe you've thought to yourself, that part of my life is over. My partner and I feel like strangers now. My body doesn't respond the way it used to. At this age, does love even matter anymore? Those thoughts aren't wrong, but they're also not the full truth. Because even after years without intimacy, your heart can still stir. Connection can still be rebuilt, starting from the smallest things. It doesn't begin with sex, it begins with emotion. Most people think intimacy means having sex. But true closeness actually begins with emotion, with a glance, a moment of care. One woman shared that she hadn't been intimate with her husband for 10 years following his cancer treatment. She didn't want to pressure him. He feared he was no longer the man he used to be. So they both remained silent. Until one day, she gently placed her hand on his while watching TV and said, "I miss being held by you." That simple sentence, without demand, without pressure, was enough to awaken something long dormant. Intimacy begins with honesty, with the courage to speak soft truths we've hidden for too long. Whether married or single, connection always starts from within. If you're living alone, divorced, widowed, or long single, it doesn't mean your time for love has passed. In fact, this might be the perfect time to return to the first and most important connection, the one with yourself. Start by caring for your body, not to impress anyone, but to feel good, clean, and alive. Take a warm bath. Gently brush your hair while smiling at your reflection. Give yourself a soft massage. These simple acts can help you feel, once again, like someone worthy of love and touch. And from there, you may slowly open your heart again, to a friend, a kind stranger, or even someone you thought you'd closed the door on long ago. If you have a partner, don't wait for them to make the first move. One of the reasons couples grow distant is because both people are waiting. One waits for a touch. The other waits for a clearer signal. Time passes, and both stay silent, afraid of rejection. But you can be the one to break the cycle. No need for grand declarations or intense passion. Sometimes all it takes is a hug from behind. A playful compliment, "You still look really good, you know." A gentle handhold while walking through the grocery store. Actions are the most powerful way to say, "I'm still here. I still want to be close to you." Start from safety, not expectation. At this age, your body might not react the same. Responses are slower. Hormones shift, the intensity may be less. That's perfectly normal. What matters most now is emotional safety, for you and your partner. Don't pressure yourself to perform or meet past standards. Instead, savor the quiet warmth of lying in bed together, just talking. Stroking their hair before sleep. Reminiscing about an old memory. Smiling when your eyes meet, like in the early days. One simple question can reopen the door, "Do you remember?" If you don't know how to begin, try asking. Do you remember the first time we held hands? Do you remember our first kiss? Do you remember walking in the rain together? These questions have a strange power. They gently carry us back to the place where love once burned brightly, and from there, they help us find our way back to each other. Not through logic, but through the heart. Conclusion. Rebuilding intimacy doesn't require a miracle, just one small step. Don't think you have to start from scratch. Don't think you have to be young again. You don't need to be strong. You don't need to be perfect. You only need to be willing to try one small, warm thing. A longer gaze. A softer touch. A kind word said without fear. And from that one step, you may find something beautiful. 6. Conclusion. Growing older is not the end, but a new chapter of love and vitality. If you've read this far, it means that somewhere in your heart, something is still longing to awaken. Maybe it's an old memory. A quiet desire. A small, tender feeling you've never dared to share. You are not alone. So many others, at 60, 70, 80, are also searching for themselves in the long silence of life. Some have loved deeply and lost. Some live in quiet marriages that have grown cold. Some believe that part of life was over for good. But inside them, something still flickers, the yearning to be seen, to be touched, to be loved. And that is not a luxury. It is a deep human need, at every age. You don't need to return to the past, just return to yourself. You don't need to relive your youth. You don't need a perfect body or raging hormones like before. You simply need to give yourself permission, to soften, to be real, to love again. Intimacy, whether with your partner, a new companion, or even with yourself, can be rebuilt. It doesn't come through effort, but through sincerity. It doesn't come from technique, but from emotion. And the most beautiful part is, it has nothing to do with age. To revive intimacy is to revive vitality. When you open your heart again, even with just a sentence, a hug, or a look, you awaken a cascade of biological, emotional, and soulful reactions. The mind becomes sharper. The heart beats with more life. Your body finds new reasons to rise early, to care for itself. And you, someone who once thought the flame had faded, begin to glow again. Gently but powerfully. You deserve to feel alive, not just exist. You are not just a mother, father, grandmother, or grandfather. You are still a man of strength. You are still a woman worthy of love. You are a full human being, with emotions, memories, and desire. And you deserve a new chapter of life, not just a longer life, but a deeper, richer, more joyful one. That chapter doesn't need to be loud. It can begin today, in the quiet moment you read these words and whisper to yourself, maybe. I still have love left in me. Let your heart write the rest of the story. Don't wait for someone else to hand you a miracle. Start with one small step, a warm glance, a caring word, a hug without a reason. Or even just telling yourself, I'm still here. I still want to live fully. You don't need to have all the answers. You just need the courage to begin, with sincerity, with feeling. With a heart that has never truly gone out. 7. Just one small step, and you can open a whole new chapter. After everything that's been shared, you might be wondering, where do I begin? What should I do first? And, is it already too late for me? The answer is, no. It is never too late. Whether you're 60, 70, or even 90. Whether you live with a partner, alone, divorced, or widowed. Whether it's been years since you last felt loved, right in this very moment, there is still a path you can take. Gently. Slowly. But full of life. You don't need to know the right thing to do, you just need to want to try. The first and most important thing is this: allow yourself to hope. Hope that you can still be touched with tenderness. Hope that you are still worthy of being seen, not just as an elderly person, a parent, or someone needing care, but as a man, a woman, a human being. Just one simple sentence: do you remember? Just one hug, even if a little awkward. Just one kind gesture, making a cup of tea, touching a shoulder, smiling for no reason. That is action. That is the beginning. Don't wait for perfection, treasure the simple things. Many people don't act because they're afraid. My body isn't what it used to be. I don't want to bother anyone. What if I'm rejected? It's embarrassing, awkward. But the truth is, no one is expecting perfection. All that's needed is honesty. You don't have to touch someone correctly, just at the right moment. You don't have to say, "I miss you," like in a movie, just say it from the heart. And you'll be surprised, the other person might be waiting, hoping, and just as ready to soften as you are. If you're on your own, you can still start with yourself. You don't need a partner, a spouse, or a new relationship to feel close to someone. You can sign up for a class in meditation, yoga, or massage therapy. Reconnect with an old friend. Care for yourself as if you were the person you love most in the world. You are not alone, you are simply in a phase of reconnection. With yourself. With the life inside you. And who knows, through that, you may connect with someone out there who's quietly waiting for you, too. No rush. No pressure. Just one step. If today you can only do one thing: speak to your partner with a softer tone. Touch their hand with a bit more tenderness. Send a message to an old friend. Whisper to yourself: I'm not past my time. I'm still alive. That's more than enough for the first day. And tomorrow, you'll do a little more. And then a little more after that. You're not finished. Your life isn't closing. There are still beautiful things waiting to be written. Still warm moments waiting for you to step into. Still hugs that haven't been given, glances yet to be shared. And smiles glowing in old age. Just as passionate as when love first began. If this message resonated with you, don't forget to subscribe to Health Advice for You. We're not just here to talk about health, we're here to talk about connection, vitality, and how to live a truly meaningful life, even in your 60s, 70s, or 80s. Each week, we share practical medical advice, inspiring stories, and simple ways to help you restore energy, rebuild intimacy, and reconnect with the people you love, and with yourself. Backhand index pointing right, hit subscribe and turn on notifications, because it's never too late to feel alive, to feel loved, and to start a new chapter. You deserve a life that's not just longer, but truly worth living.